This is The Drive with Lauren and Karl, where we cover everything automotive. We'll talk about today flock cameras, a cool study from IC Cars with some information you want to know about. We're going to talk about the new Mercedes CLA and a Chevy Silverado diesel that is in high demand. And my very good friend and co-host, Karl Brauer, how are you today?
I'm doing well and looking forward to another fun show. I feel like we've got a lot of cool topics to cover. We got a couple, actually three really cool cars to talk about on this one, and I think our viewers like hearing our opinion on these models.
Yeah.
But I think the most interesting thing that we're going to start off talking about, and you already mentioned, was flock cameras. And we're not going to talk necessarily about flock cameras themselves. We're going to talk about kind of the legal battle that's going on with those because with all the controversy that's happened, we had our cohorts in this industry, our fellow automotive journalists, two of them who got pulled over in quote unquote stolen Land Rovers that weren't stolen, but
yeah.
yeah, but somebody got something wrong and cops are pulling them over thinking they're in a stolen car because the flock camera had read the plate wrong. But what's interesting is we know, you and I, that there's a history of the flock CEO essentially claiming this is like totally a done deal. Stop even questioning that there's any issue with these with these cameras. Whether you want to fight them and you're a terrorist, he literally calls anyone who doesn't support flock terrorists, or whether you think there's a legal grounds to fight them. We've already looked at the Fourth Amendment and we're totally free and clear on it. It's not unreasonable search.
Wrong. They're wrong. I think
That's
they're
what I think
covering
we
their
found out.
backsides. Yeah.
Yes, you tell me more about what you discovered, Lauren, because I found it fascinating when you sent me the link.
Yeah, it starts off with I do a lot of research and I cover that on my Car Coach Reports channel. And I just posted last week this study on what was going on. So as I look deeper, as I love to look a little deeper, as I put on some people say I'm putting on a tinfoil hat, but it's not a tinfoil hat if this is facts. Back in 2018, there was a case called Carpenter v. United States, which talks about cell phone data and that the cell phone data is not available to just anyone who wants it. And it also includes GPS data. So once it's taken in, it's yours. And for someone like a phone company to give it up to a police officer, they need to have a warrant. You can't just go and take
Yes,
it, just like your Fourth
right.
Amendment. And then there was a couple other cases, and I cover that all. But one of them was Schmidt versus the city of Norfolk, which states that the court has already recognized the constitutional analysis is not static. So in other words, these ALPR cameras, the automatic license plate readers, it goes by the initials ALPR, that network becomes denser, and it says as the information grows, that this is a violation of your Fourth Amendment. And then there's even one I found with Flock, and they lost.
Specifically,
Yes, and they lost the case. Of course, he's going to, oh, I don't remember that. I deny that. That sounds like a CYA, and you know what that means, cover your backside. I'm saying that nicely. And this case was in the Fourth Circuit Court, and the case was Leaders of Beautiful Struggle versus the Baltimore Police Department in 2021. And the government surveillance of the 271 cameras that were flock cameras, they were told they couldn't use whatever they got on those cameras in the court of law and that it was a violation of their Fourth Amendment rights. So they lost, but that CEO still defended his position. As he told, it was Joel Fetter, but we also know Tim Estradal and a couple others of our cohorts had been pulled over. So really, they didn't have a right to do it.
Yeah, and that I think is important. The big point here is that there's this assumption, and you hear this all the time. When you're in public, you got no right to privacy. You're not going to. The court is saying
You do.
the court is saying if you go out in public and you just randomly go here and randomly go there, you technically don't have a right to privacy. If there's a technology in place that can see everywhere you go constantly when you leave, that is a totally different thing. That's not you walking by a random security camera at a store because
Or
you
a
happen to be near
doorbell
the
camera or
store.
something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or a doorbell camera or something like that, or a security, at a movie theater, you go that. This is, like you said, these ALPR, these readers can identify where you're going almost completely once you're out of your house.
Yep.
And I don't know how you better define unreasonable search and seizure and right to privacy being violated when everything by one single system. Normally the cops would have had to get a warrant and they'd have to go to the movie theater where you might have gone. They'd have to go to the store you might have gone to, the ATM you might have gone to.
Right.
They have to go through
proof.
some work.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, all they got to do is call up Flock and say, here's the license plate. Tell me everywhere this individual went when they left their garage for the day.
Yep. And it's
That
being
sounds a
tracked on
little
FedEx
unreasonable.
trucks. Yeah, but it's being tracked on FedEx trucks, on buildings. It's also
School
on school
buses.
buses, garbage
Yeah.
trucks. It's everywhere, and everybody's making money on you and your data. They have a digital dossier on you, a digital fingerprint, so they know too much about you. But now we're starting to see some pushback because you are violating your constitutional rights.
Yeah, no, we got, Massey's in there trying to get this thing stopped. And I think it's really waking up. And of course, we know that after they used our tax money to get to a certain point with these flock cameras, they now want to do an IPO and make all sorts of money as a company. So
Yeah.
we funded their IPO. And no wonder the CEO doesn't want to hear anyone pushing back with an
Right.
illegal basis.
And it's
That's not
important
going to
to
work
note that
well.
all that money that goes to it's not just Flock, there's companies, Axon, there's a whole bunch of them, that all this money going into surveillance of you was in the 2021 infrastructure bill. It cannot be undone. President Trump cannot go in and say, nope, we're not doing this. It has to be defunded in the House, passed, and then sent to the Senate, and then he has to sign it. Just like they did with the electric vehicle mandate. So all of this is super important to note that if it was that easy to undo it, it would have been undone. So this is your tax dollars making this company over $8 million, or is it $1 billion? It's a ton of money. I think it's probably billion, the total value of the company. And they're going to go public and make money off
Yeah.
your tax dollars.
Your tax dollars to funding your lack of privacy. I love
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we're gonna go on to something hopefully a lot more fun in our next
Yes.
segment. We're going to talk about a very fun vehicle, but this has been a good opening salvo for us, Lauren. We will be right back on more with The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl, and this segment, which is brought to you by iSeeCars.com, where I am the executive analyst, and we do a whole lot of consumer guidance that we layer on top of all of those car listings that you can find at a lot of different sites. But even at IC Cars, the listings are unique because we have things like predicted lifespan, believe it or not, Lauren. We can tell you how long we think that car of a certain age and a certain amount of existing miles, we can tell you how many more miles and years we think the car's got left on it with all of our data. So we got all that in the listings, and we got all our consumer guidance, iSeeCars.com.
That's great information, man. How many times do you buy a car or not sure how long it's going to last? I mean, where do you
Yeah,
find? I don't think anybody else is doing anything
nobody's
like
doing
that.
that. That's unique to IC Cars to have the predicted lifespan right there on the listing for used cars. It's a
That's
great
great.
resource.
That's great for new and used cars. So you're buying it like,
Yeah.
oh no, I really like this. And we drive everything and like a lot of cars, but how do you know? You know what I mean?
I'm
Like,
going to spend this much money. How long is this car going to go after I spend that much money? How many people
right?
would like to know that before they pull the trigger on a used
Everybody.
car? So, speaking of non-cars, though, I drove a truck recently that was the Ford F-150 Tremor. And it's an interesting story, Lauren, because I got this vehicle ostensibly to help me move a couch. It was the old,
Okay.
oh, I need a truck. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, wait, you got lots of friends when you have a truck. Everyone
Oh
knows
yeah.
you. Well, my friend was Ford Motor Company. I called them up and said, hey, can I have a truck for this weekend? And they ended up giving me it for a week. And then I felt
Nice.
bad that I was just using it to move a couch. I'm like, well, I should do something on this truck. Wait, it's a Tremor. I did some research. It's supposed to be kind of like a midway between the FX4, which is their kind of base four-wheel drive off-road trim or package that you add to anything like an XLT, and the crazy Raptor that you know something about, Lauren, that is
Yeah.
like their most capable off-road thing that can like go
And big
high-speed
power.
runs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes crazy power and can go jumping things at high speeds in the desert. So the Ford F-150 Tremor kind of sits in between those two in every way, from equipment that they've got to pricing. And I got one for a week, and I ended up
Nice.
taking it up to the top of Saddleback Mountain and having
Really?
a real good time. No, it was so much fun, Lauren. And I got to tell you, maybe a little biased thinking my videos are great, but I was able to get my drone up there, and the shots I've got on the top of Saddleback Mountain of that truck and the vision and views
Amazing.
around it is pretty awesome. But it's pretty cool to turn in the truck because I feel like if you go Raptor, you are so extremely stating that you want a crazy vehicle in terms of power and like suspension tuning and all that. And if you go off roading, it's going to be awesome. But if you're on road, it can be a little stiff. The thing's wider. If you get, depending on which version you get, it's wider. It can be trickier in the urban commuting. This F-150 Tremor, it's basically like a regular F-150, except it's got skid plates, a locking differential, 33-inch tires on 18-inch wheels, 33-inch off-road tires. And it's got extra drive modes for off-roading, and it's got some of that cool technology that they put on their off-road vehicles like the Broncos and stuff. The trail turn assist, which I thought was brilliant the first time I used it.
Oh, it's
Lauren, where
really, really helpful. Yeah.
they lock the inside rear wheel, and you're trying to turn hard between two rocks or two trees, and the vehicle drags the rear wheel on the inside, and it makes the vehicle turn almost like it's power sliding, but except at low speed. and they got
That
that
makes a
pedal
huge
one.
difference on some of these rough roads, especially if you're up in the mountains or you're doing some
Yeah.
serious off-roading. You want something like that. And Ford's always been really good with their off-road equipment. They really have it down to fine science.
Well, they know what people who are driving off road need, and they know what people who drive F-150s need. And this vehicle, it had that cool thing where you fold down the center shifter, and then you can fold out the work table that's like big and all. You can sit there with your laptop or eat.
Yeah.
So there was all these non-off-road technologies and features that on the car I liked, but then it had all the cool Tremor stuff, the skid plates and the torsion diff and all that. And I ended up really enjoying driving it up there and thinking to myself, man, I want to go off road pretty extensively and pretty aggressively, but I don't necessarily want to go Raptor pricing and gas mileage and
Well,
ride
that changes
quality and noise.
everything.
Yeah, and this thing's a real nice sweet zone. It's right around, I think $67,000 is what these things cost. And mine had a bunch of the options like the leather seats and stuff. But the other real quick thing I want to talk about is this one had the 5-liter V8, which is $375 option. The base engine is the 3.5-liter V6 EcoBoost we all know about. The EcoBoost has 500 peak pound-feet of torque, and the V8 has 410. Why does the more expensive V8 have less pound-feet of torque, and yet you have to pay more for it? I think it's because most people love that broad torque band that you get with the V8 versus the higher peak torque, but it's peaky from the twin turbo. So I was happy we had the V8 version. I loved it, and really the car in general, very effective. I highly recommend the Tremor if you want an off-road oriented F-150, but not crazy off-road that like you got to deal with every day on roads where you're feeling like you're being abused because it's an off-road truck. Very good middle ground.
Right. And we got more to talk about with cars, and we'll be right back right after this. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment is brought to you by Classic Tube. If you're thinking about restoring a car and you need brake, fuel, transmission lines, any hard tube, check out classictube.com. We have pre-bent brake, fuel, and transmission lines in steel or stainless steel. They're bent on perfection, and they're all made here in the United States. That's the tubing and the bending here in Buffalo, New York. They do more than that. So if you're working on a street rod or a custom project, or maybe your company is looking for some tubing, they are happy to help you, and they've been doing this for almost 40 years. All right, Karl, there's a lot going on. You live in the state of California, and we both know that President Trump, one of the first things he did with Lee Zeldin was take away the electric vehicle mandate, which was $7,500. But it looks like your governor is saying, I'm going to put my nose up to you, and I'm going to create my own program, and we're going to give people with California taxpayer dollars money for what they're calling the My First EV program. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work.
Well, I'm not a fan of the structure of these rules that allow you to take advantage of it, among other things. And I'm also not a fan of necessarily putting your finger on the scale of which cars are supposed to sell, especially if it's my tax money. If the finger represents my tax dollars. But yeah, so if you get a new EV now in California, you can get a $3,500 incentive off of the price, and it happens right there, Lauren. You don't got to chase it down with your taxes. 12 months or 7 months later when you do your taxes, it happens right at the point of sale, as they say. And if you get a used EV, you can get $1,750, half that amount off on a used EV. Again, right there.
There's caveats to this. It's not that simple.
Well, they do have them, and I don't like what they've done. So what was one of the biggest complaints about the federal incentive for $7,500? Do you remember what everyone said that really, what did that really do? What did that incentive? Do you remember, Lauren?
Made wealthy people be able to afford one and people that didn't have money not afford it. And then, of course, now there's new restrictions. It can't be over $80,000. You can't make so much money. Okay, so there's a couple of things that are missing in this story. One, Gavin Newsom in the state of California are telling car brands they have to match that money. They have to put that money in. So instead of the $3,500, you're saying, and you have to give $3,500 to the, I believe that money's either coming from taxpayer dollars or from manufacturers, but either way, they want the prices lower. Car brands are like, we take a loss on every single one of these. And of course, none of these rules are in ink yet. They're just proposing this. This is how California does. Float it out there and see what you Californians think about this. But if you think, oh, I don't live in California, I'm listening to Lauren and Karl, I live in New York or anywhere else. Well, guess what? There are 17 states that follow everything California does. New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Illinois, Colorado, and the usual suspects. So don't think this is just California, because once this becomes a law in California, every other state that follows, those 17 states will jump on board and do the same thing. Washington State, Oregon. And it's not necessarily a good thing because car brands are the ones footing the bill. And what do you think, Karl, they're going to do if they have to give up $3,500 on each vehicle? They're going to raise
each vehicle
prices.
they're already losing money on. Yeah. And of course, what happened when we lost the $7,500 credit? Did you notice what happened? Anything like, say, the pricing of the Bolt or various other cars?
They
They
got
dropped
expensive.
by between no when the incentive went away, they all of a sudden the MSRP dropped between $3,000 and $7,000 because they were like, oh, we got to get these things to sell, and they know there's a psychological point around between 30 and 35,000 before people stop even considering an EV.
Yeah.
So yeah, all these EVs do is they just make the price higher for the vehicle. Or lower when they take them away. But what I hate, and you mentioned it, was the fact that we all know that the $7,500 federal credit that was in place for years and sold hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cars across different manufacturers, all that did was help a bunch of wealthy people buy Teslas. That's
Yeah.
literally, if you look up
Good for Elon.
who used the $7,500 credit and what they bought, there were a whole lot of Teslas sold to a whole lot of wealthy people that didn't need another $7,500 benefit to their purchase buying a Tesla. That's what that was for. And there's no income limit on this proposed $3,500 or
Yes,
$1,750
you
for
know
use.
that's going to get put in place.
They
Plus,
better because
no,
that's
no, no
ridiculous.
Teslas are listed on the list of vehicles that are eligible. Tesla's not one of them.
Yeah,
That
because
sounds like a political commentary.
Gavin doesn't like Elon anymore because Elon left the state. So because he didn't like Gavin. So yeah, there's some fun little battles going on here, goofy little personal battles going on. The
Mhm.
other thing is you have to be a first time EV buyer. So wealthy people who've never bought an EV before, the way it's currently written, that's who the thing's for. All the people who actually have set up their house, they've got their level 2 charger, they're fans of EVs, they're looking to maybe go buy their next one. They can't get one based on this because as you noted, it's called my first EV bill. So
Yeah.
I just think it's some idiotic rules, but also not unusual for our politicians to write idiotic rules. Sadly,
Oh,
we know
there's
that's
tons of
common.
them. We've covered the tires and trying to get rid of ban older cars. If they've tried
Yeah,
every single thing they can think of, and we'll put in new restrictions, new fees, new inspections. I hear all kinds of stuff, and we do appreciate that you send us a lot of the ideas, things that you find that we might not see. I mean, I get tons
yeah.
of emails every day of people saying, "Hey, did you know about this?" And I'm like, "I did not." So you do a deeper search, much like we were talking about earlier with flock cameras. I learned about these legal cases from you, the listeners, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, no, and yeah, there's just always going to be another way that we know they're trying to make money. They're going to start charging. Remember, they're starting to charge electric vehicle drivers all this extra money because they're not paying a gas tax. So
Right.
now they have to go after them for not paying their gas taxes. It's like, yeah, but the whole point of getting an EV was so I didn't have to buy gas and go along with all the things that go along with gas, including the gas tax and all, and the swing in prices when there's a geopolitical issue.
And the cost of
So,
electricity is ridiculous. I don't know what it is in California, but
uh,
I'm in New York and my electric bill doubled. It's ridiculous.
Well, I had to fill up a Mercedes CLA, which is an electric version of the Mercedes that I'm going to talk about a little later in this show. And the one time I filled it up, quote unquote, it cost me $32 to fill it up. And it was only at about 40, the battery was down only about 40%. It wasn't even like a full fill up. And I'm like thinking to
That's
myself,
pretty equal
if
to
I got a
gas.
yeah, if I got a car down to 40% of its tank, I don't know if it'd take me $42 or $32 to put it back in, depending on the car.
Yeah.
But all right, well, we're going to come back after another break, and we are going to have a lot more to talk about on the drive with Lauren and Karl.
Welcome back to the Drive with Lauren and Karl. We've been talking about a lot of different things. Cool trucks, what's going on with electric vehicles in California, which could impact your state. And we've also talked about other things in the auto industry. And one of the things I want to talk about, and we talked about this on the last episode, and if you missed it, you can go to the Drive Car Show on YouTube and listen to episode 44, where we talk about car thefts and what's being stolen, because this is getting to be a problem. And we've even had a fellow journalist have their car stolen, right, Karl?
Yeah, Christy Lee, who's an automotive personality and reporter, she's been around for years. She had a really nice, I think it was a Hellcat version of a Challenger, which are highly desirable by car thefts and non car thieves.
Yeah.
And she had a video from her driveway cam, and it wasn't 30 seconds from the time the car pulled up till the time her car drove away with the other people.
Wow.
And what they were doing was all you needed to do was go get a key fob. And I think the dealers finally got it kind of tamped down on this, but you can buy a key fob for, it's like a generic key fob for something like a Challenger for like $100 or less. And once you have it, all you had to do with this tool that there is out there is drive up to any other Challenger with this box and reprogram your blank key fob for that car. It would talk to the car, the box would talk to the car, get the information needed to program a key, then program the key fob you spent $100 for, and then start the car and drive away. Unlock the car, start the car, drive away. And people were stealing these cars, the LX platform, Challengers, Chargers, even the Chrysler 300, they all use the same thing very easily. Now, I had a 2018 Dodge Demon, the first version of the Demon, and it could have easily been stolen with the same system and all. And I ended up having the dealership literally break the key fob programmer. They told me,
Wow.
they said, look, this is like it was like a kind of expensive part. Was it $400 or was it even more? It was not cheap if I ever needed to replace it. But they said the only reason you'll ever need to replace it is if you lose three. Remember, those cars came with 3 keys. They came with one black one that didn't give you the full horsepower and 2 red ones. And so I had 3 keys for that car, 2 red ones and the black one. And I thought to myself, how many times have I lost a key for a car? And how many times have I lost 3 keys for a car? I said,
Never.
break the key fob programmer. I'll take the risk on that I'm going to someday in the future have to spend $400 to buy another one versus the risk of losing the car in 30 seconds to someone using this thing. So they broke the programmer on the car. You couldn't easily program the key with a remote box anymore.
Right.
And as long as your existing keys worked, that was never going to be a problem. So I was fine with that. Now the 2023 Dodge Demon I have, 170, they fixed that. The last year, remember the last year for the LXs was 2023. All the LX platform, the Charger, the Challenger, and the 300. And they fixed it that last year so that it wouldn't happen anymore. So I didn't have to actually break anything on my 2023 Demon 170 to keep from not being able to sleep at night because thinking someone might steal it if they ever saw it.
You don't leave that outside. I think
it's
anytime
not
you leave
parked
a car
outside anyways.
It's risky.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's not parked outside anyways. But even if you don't want to go see a movie and be thinking like, well, it takes 30 seconds to steal this car while I'm in a 2-hour movie. So, but that's just crazy. And that's just the Dodge kind of specific thing. This is rampant, Lauren. I've heard reports. You sent me a report about Ford vehicles, and apparently now there's this signal booster thing. And people, they go to a house and they just walk around the house till it picks up the signal that's always being broadcast from your car. How do you think your car knows when you walk up to it and unlocks the doors?
It's called a proximity key. Yeah.
Exactly. It's constantly broadcasting this. So the thieves figured out, well, this is always being broadcast. I just need it to broadcast louder and further from inside someone's house to their driveway or their street. And then it'll act like the key's right next to the car and it'll unlock for me. And then I can get in it and drive it away. So that's what people are doing.
Well, there's a tool you can buy that picks up these signals. One of the things you can do to protect yourself, especially if your vehicle sits outside, and you can't control that sometimes, is to put your key into a Faraday bag. Now, if you don't want to buy one, you don't know where to get one. There's a company called SLNT. They're not sponsoring us, but I actually use their product. You can put your keys in a coffee can in your house or in any kind of metal can. Keep them away from the garage door. So what they do is they'll go up to your garage door, they'll get the code, and then they'll go up to your car and they'll unlock the door, and then they can start the car and take off because they got the code, and it's a rolling code, and that's good and bad. And what we're also seeing is on some of the higher end cars that are higher end digital keys, and of course proximity key, it knows you're there. You can put the box next to the actual door, press the button, say door, hit the code, it'll create communications with the car, unlock the car, start the car, and it's gone in seconds. Judge Janine Pirro out of the DC office, she found a bunch of people that had done this, and I think it was like 60 or 70 people, and they had taken hundreds of cars and put them on ships and sent them overseas because you're never going to see that car again.
Exactly. And again, it's like so many things, right? The high-tech convenience is great, but if you get the smart enough person to hack the high-tech system, suddenly it's the biggest vulnerability you've ever
person. Yeah.
Then it's the biggest vulnerability you've ever seen because and I always was like, is it really that hard to push unlock as you walk up to your car? But apparently, yes, it is. People want the car to just unlock as they approach it. And it's like, okay, but you are now broadcasting something. It's kind of like, it's like these speakers in your house, right? It's like, well, no, we only listen for the command thing. Well, if you're only listening for the command thing before you're supposed to pay attention to me, what are you doing all the time?
Right. It's
You're listening to me.
It's listening. Don't you worry, your phone listens, all your devices already listen. It's very intrusive these days. But it's interesting. We'll talk about a vehicle in our last segment that it's actually my daughter who bought it. It's a Silverado. It's a Chevy Suburban diesel, and it does not include proximity key. And she actually was looking for it not to be available because you can't undo it. When it's there, that technology is there. So again,
Yes.
if you keep your vehicle in the driveway or you're going somewhere, you can buy a small Faraday bag and just toss your keys into it. They won't be able to pick up the signal because now they're getting good at picking up the signal, not just from your credit cards, from your key fob, but also from your car. So there's a lot of things you can do, and there's some things that's why you have insurance, which is kind of sad because no one wants to go through that type of nightmare.
No, I mean, when that Challenger got stolen from Christy Lee, I mean, she like rallied all of her fans. Everyone knew about it, and they still never got it back. Like you
Oh,
said,
it's
Lauren.
gone.
Once those cars are gone, if they're, whether someone sends it overseas, whether they
Chop shop. Yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say break it apart, and it's like, well, there's no car to recover. We found the hood, we found the drivetrain. This is what happens when a car gets stolen. So
I've
you
had a
just got to
car
be
stolen.
careful.
I will tell you, it is not a good experience. They found my car,
Oh,
but it was stripped and burned and left in a very bad neighborhood. And then the police called me and said, "Do you want to come get this car?" I said, "No, actually, if it's stripped and burned, I don't want it back." And then I had to fight with the insurance company. So either way, it's not a good experience. And if you think, "Oh yeah, let them take my car, it's an old car," you don't want to deal with it. I'm going to tell you, it's a nightmare.
well, plus, I mean, it can impact your insurance rates if your car
It
gets stolen
did. It put
too.
me in the risk pool. I was not a happy girl. I
Yes.
didn't steal my own car. Somebody else
Yeah.
stole my car. But because they obviously don't know who it was, it all fell on me and I had to deal with it. And they stole it. It was a Mustang too. It was an 1985 Mustang GT, totally modified. I was upset about it. It's a good feeling.
Nope, nope. And that's how the system works. You weren't irresponsible, but you still get to be
I get
charged as if you were.
yes. That's
All
exactly
right.
how it goes. So remember that if you had a
That's
car
how
stolen,
that's how the system works. All right. Well, we're going to be right back after this quick break on more with The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl, and this segment, which is brought to you by Karl Brauer Cars. That's my YouTube channel where all of the cars I'm driving, I'm doing stories and videos on. And the car I'm about to talk about, I just did a very cool video on it, and you can see the whole thing there. KarlBrauer, Karl Brauer Cars on YouTube. And this particular car, Lauren, holds a very unique position in the hundreds of cars I have test driven. I
really?
would argue, I would argue this car was the most surprisingly good car. It exceeded my admittedly not very high expectations before I got it. By further, there was a bigger delta between what I expected from this car and what this car delivered than any other test car I've ever driven. Meaning,
Wow.
I was prepared to be underwhelmed and not particularly happy, and I was incredibly happy with this car. Like
Wow, I can only say
thinking,
that about a few cars that I was expecting to be horrible and turned out to be amazing. Only a
yeah,
few,
you and I
a
both know.
very few.
Well, you and I are pretty experienced. It's not easy to surprise us.
Yeah.
So let's first of all say what this car is. It's the 2027 Mercedes-Benz CLA 350. Now, the first thing I got to get out of the way is the fact that it's the CLA, which I don't know if you
Entry
remember
level.
this, Lauren.
Yeah.
I'm sure you remember this. The first gen CLA, I don't think this one now, but the first gen CLA, it shared a platform with Nissan. Okay,
Yeah.
they were front wheel drive based platforms, and I made fun of the CLA from the start, thinking, oh, someone wants a Mercedes badge, and they don't care how bad of a car they got to get it. They have very little money, and
Like
they
a
want
Louis
that
Vuitton.
Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a Rolex with an extra X at the end. But yeah, they wanted the Mercedes badge, and they were willing to pay more than they probably should be even paying for that car, but they just need that badge. And it's like, yeah, but the car said, I need the badge. Okay. So that was my opinion of the CLA from the start. And so when I knew I was getting a CLA, I was like, all right. And then I found out after I'd scheduled it that it's an electric CLA. And so I'm like, oh
Oh,
gosh, it's a CLA, which I don't have a very good impression of, and it's got the wrong drivetrain in it. Well, you can imagine why my expectations were
because they
not
make
super
a
high.
hybrid and a gas, I believe.
Yeah, there's multiple versions of it. And this is a brand new platform. It's a redesigned vehicle ground up. So here it comes. They leave it for me, and I'm like, wow, at the airport, I'm like, this thing looks nice. Look at this thing. It's kind of pretty. I open the door, I get in it. Wow, look at the material quality here. These seats, they've got their black face, but they have white edges and white
I
contrast throughout
can't
the
imagine
interior.
you saying, wow, of all the times we've gotten to cars together and co-drove,
Yeah.
you
No,
rarely say that.
I was happily surprised and really shocked at the level of interior quality. So then I'm like, yeah, but it's electric. So I get in it. It's at 92% charge. Their credit, they got it as close as they could to full charge. And it
Right.
had
And
300,
sat outside.
yeah, and it had 376 range at 92% charge. I'm like, That's really the range, even without a full charge. It's got 370 plus miles on it. Well, okay, let's see. So I ended up driving it through Beverly Hills to a fancy hotel because that's where the Maybach event was.
Mhm.
So unplanned, Lauren, I got the car a month later than I was supposed to because something got screwed up in my schedule. I did not plan to drive a Mercedes-Benz CLA 350, the entry level luxury sedan from Mercedes, to the
Yeah.
most expensive luxury sedan that Mercedes makes, the Maybach S680 V12 twin turbocharged 6-liter V12 car.
Wow.
It
Polar
costs two.
opposites. Polar
Yes,
opposites. And let
cost
me guess, it was
starts
a
at 240.
super high-end hotel also.
It was called Mayborn because I think they were going for the Maybach thing, Maybourne in Beverly Hills.
Sounds like
So
an
I drive
expensive
over
hotel.
there. And I'm waiting to be very, again, underwhelmed or disappointed when I had to get out of the Maybach after that drive and get back in the CLA. And I wasn't, Lauren. If anything, it was the opposite. I'm like, look,
Wow.
this thing's got the pop-out door handles that Maybach has. This thing's got 3 screens across the front, like the Maybach has. This thing's got really comfortable seats, like the Maybach has. This thing's got a great head-up
Not the
display,
same
like the
level, though.
Maybach
Not
has.
the same level of
Not the
luxury.
same level, but literally one. Think about it. If this car starts at 50,000 for the CLA, and it starts, let's call it 250, it's 1/5 the price. I'm like, this does not feel like 1/5 that Maybach. Does it feel
All
like
right.
maybe half, even a third of the Maybach? Okay, that means it's an $80,000 car, and it feels very, very good. So ultimately, the car makes 349 horsepower. It has 380 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Maybach 4.3. Again, right there. When I fully charged
Horsepower to
up,
weight. Yeah.
Lauren, when I charged up, it had a 410-mile range at full charge. Now, EPA puts it at 312. I'm like, well, maybe this thing's a little optimistic, but Edmunds did a full-on test. They've got a standardized test. They did the same, they had the exact same press car, same color and everything. They had the car I had, 385 miles on a full charge in that car. And
Interesting.
so 410 is not actually, that's only whatever 25 more than I was when I was than Edmund Scott. I'm sure if you drove it at low speeds, you'd probably get over 400 miles if you had it
Right.
consistently at low speeds. But
Hypermiling, yeah.
yeah, and if I charged it to 85% on the Electrify America thing, it only took like 15 minutes to get from 45 to
What was the
85.
cost to charge it?
Well, that was the one disappointing thing. And that has nothing to do with the car. It was idiotic that it was
Well, it's
$32 to
California.
fill that.
Yeah.
Yeah, California electricity, $32 to fill it up from 40%. I'm like, how many cars with gas that were at 40% of their tank would it
I
take me
was going
another
to ask you
$32 to
that.
fill up? That was a little disappointing. But again, that's not the CLA's fault. But
So
I,
from just because you're really good at math in your head, is it cheaper to fill up the CLA with electricity or a gas version or a hybrid version of that? Because we've talked about that in past shows, the hybrid version in with gasoline.
Well, in California, remember, gas is stupidly expensive too. So
Right.
it's hard to like feel like you can go get gas for cheaper and all. A lot of it has to do with also where you're filling up. Remember, the
Right.
level 3 chargers, those Electrify America, that's the most you can possibly pay. If you have a level 2 at your house, you'll probably pay like half that amount. So it probably would have cost me like $15 or $20 at most to do that same thing versus 32 at the Electrify America. But I'm just telling you, the
I
driver
can't believe how
assist
excited you are about an
technology,
electric car. That's just kind of
I can't either. I can't think about it. So great driver assist, comfortable seats, fast, long range. That's the one that really gets me. You go to 85% range, you're not being as hard on the battery. It happens quickly at these chargers, and you're going to still have like 350 miles of range without going to 100% charge. That's what always gets me about these electric cars. That people want to say, what the range is. Like, yeah, if you run it to zero, no one's going to run it to zero. It takes forever to charge it to 100%. 300 plus miles, 350 with 85% charge, which you can get to quickly and without hurting the battery. I'm sold. I really like the car. So full
wow.
endorsement for the new Mercedes-Benz CLA 350 from Karl Brauer. And I'm surprised to hear that coming out of my mouth,
So am
but
I.
that's how I feel.
All right. We'll be right back after this break. You can let Karl calm down. All right. Welcome back to the Drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment brought to you by Car Coach Reports. If you like what you're hearing on this show and you want a deeper dive into all of these subjects, whether it be electric vehicles, Chinese cars, or car reviews, check out Car Coach Reports on YouTube. And if you want to see my car reviews, you can go through the website, carcoachreports.com. You'll see all kinds of information and, of course, a link to the drive. We want you to check out the Drive Car Show on YouTube, where you can see the video version of this radio show or podcast, depending upon where you're listening. Karl, we talk about all kinds of cars, and I know you were totally enamored by the Mercedes-Benz CLA, but
Shockingly so.
Yeah, my daughter loves diesels. I have a diesel Cayenne from 2016. Yes, it's 10 years old. And no, I'm not selling it because everybody wants to buy it and it's got low mileage. And I custom ordered it, so I'm not selling it. But so she was looking for, she had a Ford Expedition, it got horrible fuel economy. She had all kinds of issues with it. So she says, I want a diesel Suburban. I'm like, geez, I don't even think there's any other brands that make diesel other than in pickup trucks. Tons of research, nothing available. So she ordered it. Now we went through our local dealer and I couldn't believe how difficult it was to get. No one had them on the lot. So finding a
Wow.
diesel SUV, a Suburban, would be the same thing. It's like same as a truck, right? It's a truck chassis. So
Yeah.
she custom ordered it. It came in. She ordered the RST. I did a full review. It's on my Car Smarts YouTube channel. I was so impressed with this 3-liter diesel. That's all I can tell you. We drive all kinds of things. I own a diesel. It had the same size engine, the 3-liter diesel. Of course, it's a little different because it's a Chevy and it's in a truck, so it's going to have different shift points and everything. But I was really impressed. I mean, the fuel economy has been super impressive. She's getting 24 miles to the gallon combined in a full-size
Wow. And
SUV.
that's Suburban, the biggest SUV you can buy,
She's
basically.
got 2 kids, wants to have more. So I said, you know what? You might as well prepare for it. 0 to 60
Perfect
time,
car.
8.4 seconds. It has 305 horsepower, 495 pound-feet of torque. And there are other engines you can get. But if you're looking about towing, the answer is always diesel because it's torque,
Yes.
torque, torque all day long. I was super impressed with the quality. She didn't go with the top of the line. And like we're talking about these proximity keys earlier in the show, hers, she didn't want it because she knew that someone could break into her car. And now she's a little
Interesting.
frustrated she doesn't have it, but she's glad that she doesn't because of everything that's going on. But it does have a top safety rating with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. It's got tons of cargo, amazing infotainment. Everything has been really impressive. She's had the car now like maybe 3 months. All I keep hearing every day is how much she loves her truck. And her husband, who drives a diesel Ram truck, loves it, loves driving it. He says this thing is like driving a dream. So if you're thinking of a full-size 3-row SUV with tons and tons and tons of storage, that's certainly something to consider. And I know everyone's like, well, what's the price on that? They range. You can get into Suburban entry level at 66,000, but hers came in at 83,000, and that was pretty loaded. She added pretty much
Yeah.
everything you could get because it was an RST. She didn't want the chrome; she wanted the black. I get it, and she's going to probably customize it like most people do, but not. There's no competition. I mean, yes, you can buy full-size 3-row SUVs, but nothing with diesel. I'm surprised that Ford doesn't have something. I'm surprised that they're not going to come up with something from Stellantis.
Yeah, I am too, Lauren. And again, just like the fact that you had to go through the process to get a Cayenne diesel, but you did, and now
Yeah,
it's like, you know,
love
it's
it.
like a rare Fabergé egg that everyone wants. Uh, that's what apparently the same situation exists with Chevy Suburbans, which it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I wouldn't have thought, a Porsche with a diesel engine sounds like a pretty special, unique thing. A Suburban with a diesel, that's special and unique now too, apparently. So I
Well,
think
they're
it's
hard to
brilliant that she
find.
got one.
Yeah, the dealers
Yeah,
get them. They said if they get them in used, they're sold immediately. Like usually
I'm
someone in the
sure.
dealership buys them. But if you're checking around, you're looking for one used, it might be challenging. You can always try bring a trailer or cars and bids, Facebook Market. But if you go to a dealer, which is the best place to go to get a used car, you'll find that, I mean, you probably have that already on IC cars as well.
I was going to say you can look nationwide or locally or anywhere in between on icy cars, but it sounds like it's going to be a challenge. And, again, General Motors, full size body on frame chassis, you'd think diesels would be, raining down from the sky options and all and be fairly common out there, but apparently they're not. So I'm
Popular.
glad it was brilliant for Shelby to get one. And I
He loves
think
it.
it's going to go forever too. I think it's so funny that her and her husband, they got two cars, they're going to run forever. So
Yeah, really. Well,
diesel,
we're talking
diesel
about
trucks and
cars every week.
SUVs.
Yeah, we talk about
Yes.
cars every week. There's lots of good stuff, and we'll have more coming next week. And Carl and I will have a full report coming from Monterey Car Week as well.
You've been listening to The Drive, your trusted source for the latest car news, expert reviews, and real insights into the automotive world. Thanks for riding along with us today. You can check out the entire archive of every episode on our YouTube channel, The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode and join the conversation by leaving your comments. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the ride, and we'll see you right back here on The Drive.